Welcome to another episode of Behind the Now. Today, I am so excited for this episode because we have our first makeup artist on here, and her name is Alyssa Hudson. Alyssa Hudson is a local 706 makeup artist. After graduating from Syracuse University, she decided to pursue her passion for makeup and enrolled at the EI School of Professional Makeup, where she trained in beauty, theatrical, stage, high fashion, film, tech lab, and prosthetic application. While in school, Alyssa had the opportunity to intern at several special effects labs, which later went on to hire her, allowing her to work on various projects including Suicide Squad, the 6th season of NBC's Grimm, and Fox's Orville. Alyssa has been working as a makeup artist in TV and film ever since. Listen in to get excited by Alyssa's creativity and learn the brilliant role of makeup in creating our characters, worlds, and stories. Hey, Alyssa, thank you so much for talking with me today. I'm so excited to talk with you.
Of course. Yeah, me too. I'm really excited.
Yeah, awesome. So, Alyssa, you are a makeup artist. Just tell me a bit about how you got into makeup at all. I know we've talked about this, off of this, but tell our listeners, I guess, how you got into makeup. Where did that come from? And just like your path so far a bit.
Yeah. From a young age, I was always really creative. I wasn't artistic in that way. With drawing or anything. I literally can't draw. But I was always creative in the aspects of I used to dance. I got into photography when I was in high school and I took a photography class. Just things like that. And awesome. When I was in college, it was around the time YouTube started getting really popular, and I learned how to do my makeup that way. I would start doing my friends' makeup for different things and going out. And I was also applying to grad school at the time, and I went to college and I was applying to grad school for psychology. And I was just kind of really trying to figure things out, like most people, graduating high school and graduating college and figuring out okay, I'm an adult now, or and what are my next steps?
Doing?
And really thinking what am I doing with my life? And I just felt like I wasn't really going in the right direction that I was supposed to be. And I was just very torn, academically versus I was always very creative. Am I fighting this, and changing my, or follow a career that I feel like I shouldn't be. And around Halloween time, I offered to do my friend's makeup for the weekend, because in college, Halloween is 3 nights.
Yeah, right.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we decided to do each other's I decided to do their makeup, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And it was back when the zipper face was really popular.
Oh, wow.
And now looking back, it's so cringe. But
everything is, I guess. Yeah. But still, it's really cool. Makeup wise, I wouldn't know how to do that. You know, I don't think people just know how to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And I just watched a YouTube video and I was like, oh yeah, it's pretty easy.
Amazing.
And it just really got me thinking, oh, well, this is really fun and I like doing this, and, I'm getting a lot of compliments, and I actually won a costume contest. And so it just really ignited that, oh, I could do this for real. As a career, and people, get paid for it. And, I'm from LA. And so it was just kind of a no-brainer to work in TV and film.
Yeah. So cool.
And so from there, it just kind of branched off into, me deciding to go to makeup school. And so once I graduated and came back home, I went to makeup school and just kind of hit the ground running, and, really invested time, into learning everything that I could. And that kind of, gave me the ability to learn a lot. And ultimately start working, right after I graduated.
So, like, would you recommend for people that want to get into makeup, would you recommend them getting formal training? Like, is that a silly question? Do you think it's possible to just be self-taught, or because you were self-taught, but you still went to school? Like, you went to school also?
Right. I mean, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it depends on the type of person you are. Like for instance, like one of my best friends, she's completely self-taught. And for me personally, I liked the like structure of makeup
Mhm.
school, but granted, I feel like I learned a lot being on the job. Like once it like you feel I feel like I didn't really know anything until I got to set.
Mm.
And I
Interesting,
feel like
yeah.
until you're able to like really be in that situation, be in that environment of like a real set, you have an AD being like, how much time do you need? Um, and until you're there, like it's completely different.
Interesting, yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I think either way, as long as you have um, the discipline and the drive to learn, like
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter if you have school or not.
Yeah, okay, that's awesome. I think that's for probably most of these, like most creative fields, you can depends on the person. I think maybe another aspect is like confidence. I think like if you feel like
Yeah,
I know it's like you should like ideally we want to be confident without not like delusional, but you know what I mean? Like if you could be self-taught and be just
right,
as
right,
good as someone who went to school, obviously. But if you're like, I mean, like if going to
right.
school helps your confidence, which is like so crazy, that we can't
Yeah,
just
I
do
mean,
that.
100%. And I think like also just like practicing too.
Yeah.
Um, because like it takes a ton of like you're not just good like off. I mean, sure, maybe some people are naturally like talented like that, but even with like any type of art or any type of skill, like you still need um practice with
Yeah.
everything, you know?
Mhm. And
Even
with
that like
makeup,
still practice. So
yeah. And I assume with makeup, you can't just like practice on the same, like you can, but it helps to probably practice on different people, right? Because I don't know, like, is there a thing to that?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, even I guess before I started working on other people's faces, like I mean, I would use my own face. And of course I know my face.
Yeah.
But like say like you like doing your makeup, for instance, is completely your features are different than mine. So obviously there's different things that I would do.
Mhm.
And working on different skin tones, different ages, it all
Yeah.
plays a factor
So
into like your
cool.
application and your approach. Yeah.
Yeah. So I met you on set and I like you have so much makeup. It sounds like also obvious, I guess. But I was
Oh my
actually
gosh.
thinking like how you
It's so
even just
funny.
no, like how you even get each person's skin tone in like seconds. You know what I mean? Like you look at someone and you're like this and you mix it
Yeah.
and you just like do it. Is that something you learn or is that you just have a good eye for it?
I think a little bit of both. It's funny,
Hmm.
like, because literally, like this weekend, I went makeup shopping and like
Oh,
got
cool.
some additional things for my kit. So I'm always like adding to it or wanting to
Yeah.
try new things. But I definitely think it comes with again practice. Like when I was in school, I remember learning we had to learn color theory, and like it's become
Mhm.
something now that I think is a lot more popular because of like TikTok and like
Oh,
different social media
interesting.
platforms,
Mhm.
and you have makeup artists creating content um, on how they apply makeup. So I think it's much more knowledgeable now, but um, I had to take like primary colors. So it would be like red, yellow, white, like a dark brown, and like blue or something. And I'd have to mix them all together and learn how to make a skin tone.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I
And so
see.
I think that kind of helps to like train your eye because like we only had that's the like we weren't allowed to buy like foundations. We had to learn how to do it that way. And so now, I mean, I can literally look at your skin tone and be like, oh, I have this foundation, but I need to add blue in it to make because
Mm.
it's a little more cool. Your skin's a little more cooler. Or I need to add yellow because you're like a little more like warm, things like that.
Yeah.
Um,
It's really
I
like
think, or
yeah.
or even just like mixing. It's a science. Like essentially, you're like you're like playing with paint. Essentially,
Yeah. Yeah, it's really amazing because you actually like how you just said that you train your eye. You really do because I can't look at all those colors and like
Yeah.
look at someone and know what to do. You know what I mean? So it's fascinating that you
Yeah.
actually would use colors, like the primary colors or cool colors, whatever, without
Yeah.
foundation at all. And you had to like, that's crazy. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And even to like apply prosthetics because I do special effects too, it's
Right.
uh even more of a skill because like I'll have to paint a prosthetic that looks it's like painting like taking a white piece of paper and making it look like skin,
Yeah. Oh, that, yeah,
like with
literally,
just
right?
like
Yeah.
paint. Yeah, so
Mhm.
it's because all of our skin tone is like broken up into like those like four colors, just like different amounts of each color,
Uh,
and so it's
yeah.
crazy just like the things that you can do and
It
the like
is, right?
meticulousness of it all.
Yeah, and also with
Yeah.
effects, it's not just, like, color anymore, it's also, like, texture. Well, I guess all makeup is that too, but, like, I don't know, like, the
Yeah.
texture and, like, the how it's gonna hold up and how, like, if it's, like,
Mhm.
bloody, like, when is it bleeding, like, timing that and, like, all this stuff. It's crazy what you it's, like, it's really amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. No, it's a sign that's like a whole like especially like medical stuff,
Okay.
like to be like accurate, but then also like creative, like some directors have like creative license over things like that.
Mhm.
Um that play into it. But like to know like, oh, this would look like this if it was bleeding and
Yeah.
my Google like search history is crazy. Like trying
That's
to look
so
like
funny.
realistic like injuries and stuff. Like I'm sure whoever is watching my FBI person that looks at my
Right.
phone is probably like, what are you doing?
That's hilarious, but that makes
Um
sense. Okay, so, talk me a bit through the process of, when you're working on a project, right? So you book a job, like,
mhm.
we talked about this a little as well, but, like, where do you start from? And then, because you just kind of brought up, like, part of your research, I guess, for some special effects is if someone got stabbed
Yeah.
or, like, something, you literally have to look up what that looks like in real life,
Yeah.
and then you're thinking how to replicate that, or there's
Right.
probably some go-tos you already do,
Right.
but, like, yeah, so what's your process? Like, however you wanna talk about it.
Yeah. I think well, the first part is the script.
Yeah.
So I'll be sent a script and I do a breakdown of it. So I kind of like outline each character, like their age, how they identify, and like personality traits. And then it kind of goes into you create this like world and kind of like have to think about their everyday habits, kind of like the story that they tell or are
Mm.
telling, and like their past. So let's say, for instance, like you have a character who's like a bartender who's like in college and lives with a roommate or something like that. Um, and you kind of think like, okay, they work nights. If they're a bartender, like they might kind of be the type of person to like you know wake up pretty late,
Mm.
and just kind of like it goes into like who are they as a person, and that plays into their character and just like everyday things that they might do. If you're getting ready in a hurry, maybe you have like smudged eyeliner or
Mhm.
something like that. Just like little things like that that kind of like make humanize a character, I think are really important, and just add every like realness to a person. And I like really enjoyed doing that with makeup.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes like it's things that people don't even pick up on, but it's just like subtle things that I think
Right.
create more realism and just add to like the authenticity of like a character.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. And then another thing I realized that you do, which I thought was amazing, was from the get-go, you seem to kind of have a sense of how because okay, so you're doing makeup on actors who are playing, these roles. And you seem to take into account or have a sense of what feels natural to the actor because you can do you do this work, this preparation before meeting anyone, before meeting the actors you're working on.
Right.
And the actor shows up and then it becomes like you
Yeah.
seem to have like a marriage of what you think and what you planned, but also what's comfortable for this person, what feels like it for that person, right? Um, yeah, talk about how like your any thoughts on that or like
Yeah.
what made you approach it like that or if everyone does, but I don't think so. I think you're yeah.
Yeah, it ultimately depends on the story, I think, on the script.
Mhm.
But also like I think making an actor feel comfortable is very important, and I wouldn't ever really want to take away from their like confidence or take away from like their comfortability ultimately. Like I want them to feel like themselves, but
Right.
also take on this character that they're
Yeah.
portraying. So I'll ask them, how do you like to wear something? Like, do you like to do your mascara? Or maybe you like to do your brows a certain way.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's important to make them feel included in
In the
creating a character.
development,
And a
right,
lot of
yeah.
times actors, yeah, exactly, in their development. And like a lot of times, like actors will say, oh, they'll come to me with their character and be like, oh, I think that they should have this, or oh, I'd like it if like we could do like a darker like eyeshadow, or I feel like
Mm.
she's like, very dramatic, so let's do like something colorful or whatever.
Yeah.
And like little notes like that, I think help to like create to help them feel comfortable as well, and also just kind of like what they envision their character as, and help them
Yeah.
get into their role too,
Right. Uh-huh.
and embody that character. Yeah, I think it's super important.
Yeah, and then you're also, collaborating with them, but it's cool because I think, like, it could be a like, you can put makeup on an actor and, like, I don't know, like, something's itchy on their face. It's not like something external, like, it's important
Yeah,
to, like, have that, conversation because if something's just, like, annoying, like, it could get in the way even though it's not, like has nothing to do with the circumstance or, you know what I mean? But you wouldn't necessarily know that, and
yeah,
if yeah, like, how would you know that that product doesn't sit well with someone or, so yeah, like, I love that you kind of open that up from the beginning. It's very clear that you have a strong awareness of that, you know?
yeah. No, thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's like,
Yeah.
again, like really important, just to like, especially you want to create that like contact with your actor, um like that relationship and like that trust
Mhm.
too, because that's super important. Like if you don't trust your makeup artist, like that can go left like really fast.
Right, right, between takes, just
um
everything's changing or
yeah,
something.
yeah. Yeah, oh my gosh, I've had like actors that will like sometimes like change like something, like, because sometimes there are times where like, oh, you want like a red lip or something, and like the actor will want like a red lip, and
Uh-huh.
I'm like, well, your character like, isn't that glam or whatever, and like they
Yeah.
will literally like go and change a lip, and then I mean that happens every now and then. um
What do
but
you what do you
uh
do in that kind of situation? Like, what's yeah.
um I mean also I mean, it's sometimes one of those things like where you kind of just have to like,
Let it go, like, let them
it depends.
yeah.
Yeah, let it go a little bit, or during last looks, just be like, oh, I need it. Like, oh, well, I'll touch it up for you, like during last looks, and then sneakily change it, and then be like, oh, well, it's continuity, so now you have to have a nude lip, like
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's
things like
so
that
funny. Do you,
happen every now and then.
yeah, that's hilarious. I can imagine these situations. Who do you collaborate with kind of first? So you get the script and you do your work and you think of how each thing looks, and then is that like the extent of it, or will you also have a call like with the director, or no? Like how does it normally, or does it differ?
Yeah, I mean, it differs like project to project, but
Uh,
normally I would speak to like a director, and then also like, or a showrunner, just like you would have a production meeting, and just, talk about their feel for the character, what they would like to see, or if they have any notes too.
mm,
um and oftentimes like the three of us, like me, the actor, and the showrunner or the director, will often collaborate on what they feel
Mhm.
an actor should look like or a character, and like a mood board or something. Like,
Right. Okay.
say you have like a party scene or something, and you have like various looks that you want to create, or like feels. You'll create like a mood board or something, just kind of to give like the inspiration feel of like the vibe, you know?
Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll
And
do
then
something like that as well too.
okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then also, okay, so actually shifting a little, so I read that you also
Okay.
interned or worked with like Suicide Squad and like all these cool shows early on, I think, right? Like when you were in school still
Yeah.
maybe? That's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
How
That was like,
did
yeah, it was during, um, I was interning like while I was in school.
yeah, that's so awesome. How did you do that? Like what advice do you have for makeup aspiring makeup artists, maybe they're in school to do like exactly what you're doing? How do they get those internships or just like what do you recommend? Like what can they do?
Um, Honestly, just like a lot of it is cold calling. Like even now,
Oh.
putting yourself out there, I think is really important. Like even, I mean, I have to put myself out there even now,
Mhm.
and like you know, for me, it was I pretty much knew what I wanted to do as soon as like I started makeup school. Like I
Yeah.
didn't want to do bridal. I didn't want to do um, like red carpet or anything. I wanted to do film and TV, and I wanted to learn special effects. And I knew that a lot of people, like who were, in the industry, like you have to know how to do a lot of it.
Mm.
Because you kind of limit yourself if you are able to just do beauty.
Yeah.
Um, and I knew that if I was able to learn from someone, it would help, to accelerate, like my progress.
Yeah.
But then me just learning it by myself. Uh, and so I just looked up like internships in LA for different makeup studios, or even I think just emailing different studios. I'd asked if there were any internship opportunities or if I was able to shadow anyone.
Yeah.
Um, and I ended up interning at an effects studio. Uh, and I was able to, yeah, work on Suicide Squad, yeah, do some interning stuff for them, and do some interning stuff for the Orville, which I later got to work on set for like
Oh,
years later.
amazing.
So that was kind of a full circle moment
Yeah, for
for
sure.
me. Uh, yeah, it's like, oh, like I was an intern and now I'm like on set. So that was
Right.
like really cool.
So when you're an intern, what does that entail versus working on set? But also, but before I get to that, sorry, you were saying it's interesting that you were saying that you cold outreach, which is really cool to hear. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's funny because normally, like, I'm not the kind of person, it takes me a while to get out of my shell. Um, but I think it definitely in this industry, like your confidence is something that you really have to, um, like have like strong ability.
Mm,
Because what you have, nobody's going to hand you your opportunities. I mean, very few. And kind of like putting yourself out there and, letting people, you know, meeting somebody and, your network is like truly your net worth. Um, and, a lot, since it's a small industry, like, believe it or not.
yeah.
Um, and I think, I tend to work with the same people time and time again, and like, get rehired by, the same people. And you build a relationship and you have your kind of core people that, you work with or you pass jobs to. Um, and so just creating that relationship with people is super important.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so and also it's good to hear, like because yeah, like I hear it again and again, but really like the power of simply asking and reaching out, like not overthinking it, like you have the impulse to, like I want to work with them, just just reach out. Like, what's the worst that can happen is that you get no answer, or they're like, no, not now. Like, you know what I mean? So it's good to be reminded of that always. And that's like across the board. Actors have to do that. Like, we all have to do that.
Yeah, it's super important. And I mean, again, like what you said, like the worst they can say is no, or just like not respond,
Right,
and I mean, that's happened
exactly.
too, but at least you don't have that, like, oh, well, what if I like had
Right.
never, what if I reach out to them and, would I be? So like, I'd rather have, quote unquote rejection
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
to wonder like what, you know?
Yeah. 100%. That's so true too, right? And also like the second you overthink something, it becomes like this thing that like could go on and it's like really you could just do it and have an answer in like 5 seconds. You know what I mean? Instead of wondering like, "Oh, is this I don't know, like is this okay to do or blah."
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's better to have that like, to not have that like that like doubt,
Yeah, for sure. I love that because and it sounds like it's worked really well for you because you've did that from the beginning and you still reach out that way, like cold and obviously. And also now you probably have a network. You said that like of people you work with again and again as well. So it just naturally you build your people, your community or your yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, amazing. That's so cool. Um, um, what are some mistakes that you see? I could have asked this before, I guess, but what are some mistakes that you see makeup artists making? Like, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you've noticed or that you've learned to not do anything like that when it comes to pursuing a career in makeup or literally the application of makeup?
Hmm. Well, like one thing like right off the bat is like hygiene.
Uh,
I and like making sure that I think like your kit and just like the way you kind of like present yourself.
mm-hmm.
Like for instance, like I know I've worked with some makeup artists on like random things or like photo shoots and stuff, and um they like won't be like the most cleanly person, or like your kit will be just like a mess and you'll just kind of have thrown things around,
Yeah. Do you mean like with
and like
makeup?
I'm like, you've seen like, what'd you say?
Oh, sorry. Do you mean like kind of like with makeup brushes because you're working on different people or like stuff like that? Like to clean your brushes and or like is that what you mean sort of?
Yeah, and then also like your actual products in your kit.
Okay.
So um like I mean, we work on different people all the time, and a lot of times like you might have like foundation like running down your bottle or something like that, like
Got
you have
it.
eyeshadow like dust, or like your palettes may be like dirty,
Mm,
and between clients like you have to like sanitize. I mean,
yeah.
especially because of COVID, I think a lot of people have gotten better about it.
Mm,
And just, when I was working through COVID, that was like a whole thing of like cleanliness, and, you know, that we were wearing like hospital gowns to like apply makeup. Like it was crazy.
mm,
So I think a lot of people have gotten better about it. But, making sure that you disinfect things in between people. Or, I've seen people like apply lipstick to somebody's lips, like straight out the tube, or like lip
yeah.
gloss, or like the same mascara wand on different people. And, things like that, like you're not really supposed to, or you're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
It's like unhygienic.
Yeah.
And, and so I think things like that, like, if I see somebody do that, I'll like make a note, like in my head, like, oh, don't hire them again, or oh, like
Oh,
I'm not working with
mm.
you, like things like that.
Yeah, no, that's a
Um,
huge thing. That actually it makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. And then I think just set etiquette too. As far as like, knowing like when to do like, or like last looks and things like that. Like a
Mm,
lot of times, like maybe like like I wouldn't say, well, some makeup artists, but then also like assistants or something. I mean, it all comes with learning,
mhm.
but just like not really being there, like being attentive to like your talent. just making sure that you're doing touch-ups,
Mm-hmm.
and making them like a priority. Like I try to like make actors feel like talent, and for instance, like when we were shooting, like I had fans for you guys, like,
Yeah, I
things,
know.
it's little
You
things like that I
really,
think are memorable.
yeah,
Yeah, and and make the experience so much better. Um,
yeah,
and so like, albeit like, it's completely necessary, but it's just something that like I think, oh, like you really care. I think
yeah.
that's the thing, just showing that you care.
Yes, it's such a
Yeah.
good answer. And yeah, so when I worked with Alyssa on set, she came and like gave us these you came and gave us these handheld fans and everyone was like they were so impressed by them. And it's like, you're right, like it's like a simple thing like that, but also like it's hot. We're trying not to sweat, I guess, you know what I mean? So that's really
Right.
impactful, those things, like those details. It's smart. You're really, yeah, I can,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, and it's authentic. And then you mentioned you knew you wanted to do makeup for film, TV, and like versus bridal showers or weddings or whatever. What's kind of the differences in
Hmm.
makeup for every day versus makeup for film and TV? Like in terms of, again, like in terms of the actual makeup or career, like how did you know you didn't want to do, like why, if you can speak to that?
Yeah. I just think it for me personally, it didn't draw me in.
Mm, yeah.
Um, I mean, like I've done like two weddings in my entire career.
Mhm.
Um, and I mean, it's a different industry. Um, you know, and like there are makeup artists out there that only do weddings, like, you know. And I think for me, I like just like being on set. Like I
Mm,
like feeling like I'm a bigger, or uh
I
like
know
a
what you
part of
mean.
something in that way,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
creating a movie, or doing
Yeah, for
something like
sure,
that.
that makes
And I feel like
sense.
I wouldn't have gotten yeah, and I feel like I wouldn't have gotten that like satisfaction through like a wedding or something,
Yeah,
albeit like
yeah.
you're still doing you're playing a part in something. I just feel like it, for me, didn't
Yeah.
um it wasn't that exciting.
Yeah, yeah, and creatively, it's a totally different thing, you know? I mean, a wedding is, like, very important to someone's life, but you're ultimately telling a story through makeup, and a wedding's like, well, it's, like, their best day. Like, no matter what, you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
for
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just
it's just
different, even
totally
like with
different,
like
yeah,
fashion or something, like, yeah, it's just all totally different.
yeah.
And TV and film, like where I wanted to be.
Yeah, that makes sense completely. And then in terms of, like, the actual makeup itself, so, like, if I'm, just doing my everyday makeup, whatever, how would that differ if it's, like, say I'm, like, the exact same thing now, but in a film, but, like, same role, similar as just me? How would my makeup I mean, are there
Yeah.
any things that, like, totally don't read or, like, oh, you need on camera or, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it depends on like the shot, or
Yeah.
and things like that play into it too. Like if you're doing like depending on like the quality of the film too. Like I mean, I'm talking like the camera.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
nowadays things are shot in like 8K, and you can literally see like every single pore in your face.
Yeah.
And
Great.
so I know, right? And like having like just I mean, makeup itself has evolved over the
Mhm.
past like 15 years or so to cater to like those cameras, like when they transitioned to like high definition and like 4K, or 8K, whatever it
Yeah,
was, they had to come out with different makeup just so like it would look appropriate.
yeah,
And there's like a whole
wow.
history behind that too, like the
Right.
evolution of like TV and film and cameras, and like the style of makeup, and like what types of makeup they would use.
Yeah,
Um, and so, I mean, it's different depending on um, the camera or,
Yeah.
what things that the camera will see,
Yeah, that's
versus like
so
you doing your own makeup,
yeah, yeah, no, totally. That's so fascinating. That's something I wouldn't even necessarily like. It makes perfect sense, but yeah, it's something that's like in your awareness so naturally. And you know what I mean? Like I necessarily wouldn't necessarily even think of that. So when you join a project, is one of the first things you know or you figure out is like what camera are they using?
Yeah. Yeah, they'll
Okay.
usually tell you like what it's being shot in.
Right. Okay.
And then they go with like lighting and stuff.
Mhm.
And, you can see like what the lighting is like on like a monitor or something. And you can see, oh, okay, I might need to go like darker or like lighter or
Mm.
something. Um,
Yeah.
or even like if a shot is like super dark or like dim lit, you might need to make something more amplified, so it picks up on camera.
Yeah.
Different things like that, you kind of just have to see once you're looking at a monitor.
So sometimes it's trial and error to a degree. Like you can prepare as much as
Yeah,
you can, but like on set, you're actually looking and you're changing things.
right. Yeah,
Okay.
like for like if I see like on a monitor, oh, like in the trailer, or on like when we were doing your like a makeup, like, oh, it looked this way, but I might need to tweak it a little bit depending
Mm,
on what it looks like on the camera, because that's what it's
yeah,
going to look like on TV or whatever.
right. So interesting. It's so cool. And then another thing you spoke about that you brought up is the trend, like in the last 15 years. But uh, in general, are you always like keeping up with, are you like, are makeup artists always keeping up with trends in makeup and you have to like get the latest thing, like the latest, what am I saying, like makeup products? Is that a thing? Or can you just have your like
Yeah,
trusty
yeah.
good ones that you like that are like, because I, I don't know.
It's a mix of both. I
Huh,
think,
okay.
for me personally, like I kind of like I'm always on like social media looking at different looks and like different fun like trends. And like right now everything is like super like natural and soft, and I love it. And I think take inspiration from it in
Mhm.
creating characters, because also that plays into like periods.
Right.
So
Exactly.
like different trends that we see in makeup, um say like we have let's say there's a movie that we're shooting current day, so I would kind of use whatever styles are in today
Yeah, that
to
makes
help
sense.
portray that.
Yeah, I
So
was
it
gonna
all
say
like
that.
plays into each other.
Yeah, like if it's a specific time period, obviously you're doing that. But if it's just current day, which a lot are, then you need to know what current day is. It's not like you can just be like, "Oh, I can do anything." You know? Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, for sure. And like if we were shooting in like, the 90s, like there's like a specific look that everybody things, trends and things that play
Yeah.
into like a 90s look or things like that. So it's super important, I think, to know what trends are, um and how they play into like our culture.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. That's so interesting. Okay, going back to like I'll give you like two more random questions and then yeah. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so do you have any weird talents? So like other than makeup, is there any like weird talents you have or do that like maybe people don't know about?
um a weird talent.
My sister, for instance, she's really good at like you can throw anything in the air, like a blueberry, and she can catch it in her mouth.
Oh my gosh. What? I
I
wish I
know.
could do something cool like that. It's funny because I've
Mhm.
never been able to like catch anything like food in my mouth.
Oh, yeah,
Um, Ever. Like
yeah.
my coordinations, I'm not like athletically inclined whatsoever. Um, I'm trying to think of a cool talent. Not really.
Okay. Here, I'll ask you something else.
I used to
Sure.
dance, but
Okay.
like that's not really like a cool. I mean, it is a cool talent,
Yeah,
but
it is. What
I don't do it
genre?
anymore, so I don't
What
really know if I
type?
would consider it a cool. I used to do ballet, like modern, contemporary, things like
Yeah,
that.
cool. Me too, actually. But I did. I did ballet and
Oh wow.
jazz and lyrical and stuff, but my favorite was tap. So like with, tap with the metal. Yeah.
Oh.
Um,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah,
I
that's
took
a
a
good
few tap
one.
classes. I used to do like a summer program,
Oh, cool.
and we took like all these different types of dance.
Yeah,
But yeah, tap
amazing.
was fun.
Yeah, it is. I love it. What is your horoscope sign and does it mean anything to you?
Oh, I'm a Cancer.
Okay, so
But
why?
okay. So I'm gonna add to that.
Okay,
I'm a Cancer sun, but I'm a Scorpio rising and a Pisces moon.
okay.
So I'm all water signs.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, like the fact that I'm telling you this, I think proves that like I'm kind of into it.
Okay,
Um,
cool, yeah.
but but like water signs are like super emotional and like I mean, I think cancers like they say that we're like very protective of like our family and like friends and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so I definitely think that's true. Like I'm very close to like my family and my friends.
Yeah.
And definitely like, one of those people that's like an introverted extrovert.
Mhm,
Like,
yeah. No, I know what you mean,
you know,
100%.
like it
Yeah.
takes me a while to warm up to people.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I definitely think there's some truth to it, 100%.
Yeah.
What are you? What's your sign?
Taurus is, like, the main one, whatever that is, sun sign, right? Yeah, yeah, I'm just like and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I think the other ones are the other ones I learned what I am very recently, like, I just looked it up and okay, so I think it's Sagittarius moon, but I am blanking on, the
Hmm.
other one. What would my other one be? Like, rising? Or is
The
that
the the rising. Yeah, yeah,
I
your
wrote it
rising sign.
down. I just don't remember this second. I'm gonna look for a second.
Mm, yeah, I
Um,
don't I don't really even know what they mean. Like to be completely honest, like
yeah,
I don't
okay,
even
so I
like
guess it
I
doesn't mean
think one of them is supposed to be like what
oh,
you how you are seen by other people, and then the other one
yeah.
is like something I forget.
Well, I remember I looked it up and then I
Um,
looked up, like, what they mean, and I was actually fascinated because it felt very accurate, but I don't remember now. I was just, like, reading and I actually was wrong. I'm actually a Taurus sun,
oh,
a Scorpio moon, not Sagittarius, and Cancer rising. I just looked I knew
oh,
I had written
okay.
it down, but
Hey,
I forgot, so, yeah. So does that mean we have similarities in
that's
some ways,
cool.
or I don't know.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
like cancers, they're like pretty like I don't want to say emotional, but like
Yeah, yeah.
sensitive. I think people say.
Yeah. And like what you just described of
I
like
can see.
introverted, like extrovert when you're like with I'm the exact same. So like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
100%.
that's funny. Okay, and then this podcast is called Behind the Now, but I always ask, how do you be the now? And that's like up to your interpretation. Like, how do you stay present? If there's something you do, or maybe there's something you do, but like what makes you feel present? However you want to answer it.
I think for me, it's doing. I think what makes you happy.
Mm.
Whether that be like career wise in life, um, a hobby, and just taking time for like self care.
Mhm.
Um, like it's funny that you mentioned that. Like recently, I've been trying to like really understand within myself, like what makes me happy,
Mhm.
and I've been like kind of on this journey of like um, taking the time to do things that I enjoy,
Yeah.
and whether that be like a new hobby, um, or just spending time like relaxing,
Right.
and
Mhm.
just being in the moment. I think is like super important, whether it's like going on a walk or going on a hike or doing yoga, whatever that may be to you. I think that's definitely one like a way that we can like be in the now for sure.
Yeah. 100%. And I love that you said, um, that you like really emphasized also of like what it means for you because it doesn't, yeah, like, and that can change every day. Like, if there's something like, you know what, for some reason, I feel like
Yeah.
this today, and I feel like doing this today to honor that, like to that. Yeah, I love that answer. And tell our listeners, like, how can they find you or find your work or, yeah, like they want to get to know you more or see what you're up to. Where can they go?
Oh yeah. Okay, so I mean Instagram is probably the best place. It's my Instagram's Alyssa Hudson underscore MUA.
Okay. Well,
I just started a TikTok.
oh
And so
my
one thing
gosh.
that I really want to be
Yeah.
more I want to be more diligent about is like posting. Like right now with like the strike and everything that's going on. I mean, I'm not working, so I'm like, I have this time on my hands.
Yeah.
Like, why not like make some content and do
Yeah.
something fun? So and put myself out there. So,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
all so I just started that.
What's
And
your
so I'm
TikTok
gonna probably
handle?
start like videos. It is. I'm like, what is my TikTok handle?
I know.
What- oh, it's Alyssa and then Lene. So Alyssa, like Alyssa, and then Lene, Lenai.
Okay, perfect. And guess what?
But yeah.
I also just started a TikTok super like pretty recently, like exact
Oh, I
thinking
gotta
as
follow
you.
you.
So that's really funny because I also yeah, like I was on something recently and that and like they asked me that too. And I was like, well, I just started a TikTok. But I was like, yeah.
Right.
I guess you can look at it. Yeah. That's so funny.
Right. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a good idea though because you are so knowledgeable, and so why not give value? Like you know what I mean, share that value with people. Like I'm sure it'll be great. So
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah,
It's a fun, exciting thing that I have
yeah,
to
yeah. As
do.
long as it's fun, right? Like the second it's like not fun, like what's the point? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
yeah. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much, Alyssa, for doing this. I really appreciate it. You're so knowledgeable, and it's been so much fun to talk to you all about makeup and how you got into it. It's like, yeah, it's really exciting.
No, I had such a great time. I'm so glad that you asked me to do this and that we connected on set.
Yeah, it was fun because we were already kind of talking, and I was like, oh, this would be perfect. She has such a like, she knows a lot. Cool. Yeah.
No, it's great. It worked out perfectly. I'm so happy.